had, there's another dream. I'll just give you a little synopsis here, really little sentence or two. Anyway, I don't dream in black and white. It's just not one of my MOs. But this dream was in black and white, except I was in a big library. There's a book stacked way up to the ceiling, and the ceiling must have been 30 feet high or so. Well, anyway, there was one book that was in color, and it was a hardcover book. It was about maybe an inch on the binding. It was red, gold, and yellow, almost like a marble swirl. And on the binding, it said thirsty. Now, there's all kinds of thirst that we have, whether it's an actual physical thirst. Now, I have been doing the John Ellis water, and I absolutely love it. Water usually gave me a stomach ache, even the filtered water. But this doesn't at all. I feel light as a feather when I drink it, and I drink a lot of it. Or it could be some other kind of thirst for knowledge or more information of things. Any insight, Duane?
Well, again, how did that start?
And the books must have been a 30-foot ceiling or so, and everything was in black and white, and the books were horizontal on the shelves, not vertical like we see. And there was this one book that was a hardcover, and it was the only book that was in color. And it had golds and reds and yellow swirls, like marble swirling on the cover. And then on the binding was the word thirsty.
Well, when everything's, kind of here, it's black and white. In other words, an idea is like politically correct. So you see all these books, and there's different levels or layers of things. And so all of a sudden, this colored book sticks out because, again, what is a library? You're looking for knowledge. You're looking for information, reference, whatever. And so again, I would say this one represents you're thirsty for the knowledge, and the colored one, it represents something real and vital. Where everything else, basically, when you look to many things, it's all black and white, like the textbooks that they create and whatever. Everything's black and white. They've already decided for you. You see, so this is where you explore. So. Yeah, and did you pick that book or what? Or
I did.
You did?
Yep.
Oh, okay, there you go. So So through all of that, you've sorted it out, just like the new presentation here. Eventually you figure it out through, just like 50 years of Eck. Yes, you had to go through that to finally realize, no, this isn't it. And so here you are. So it's giving you a confirmation, and plus there's always more, you see. So you know the experience best.
Yeah. This is one I had last night, and I'd asked actually Revizar where my grandmother was. I grew up with in her house with my mother, and I became pretty close to her, and I never really had any dreams with her like I had with other relatives that had passed on, or friends or other acquaintances. But so last night I have this dream with her, and she is in her bathroom, and she is standing on high heels on the bathtub, trying to reach a light that had burnt out. And she had gotten it so far that it was hanging there, and I offered to help her change the light, and she looked at me and she says, "No, I don't want any help. I want to do it myself." And so I thought, well, okay, she's on her own path. Maybe the end of my relationship with her, but I just thought it was interesting. She's been gone since 1968. So she's been gone quite a while. But I just thought it was interesting that she didn't want any help. I used to help her with the ironing and the cleaning and the laundry and the hanging the clothes on the line. But in this instance, she didn't want any help. So
she didn't want to see the light.
the light had burnt out. She needed it changed. But she was going to do it herself. So.
It sounds like the church people that don't want to hear a word you have to say.
Yeah, well.
They don't want to be enlightened.
Enlightened. So.
Well, speaking of lights and everything, I had another dream I wasn't even going to mention, but I found myself in a small room with an overhead light, and it was one of those lights above your head, and it had the drawstring, hanging down from it. So in order to turn the light on and off, you'd have to grab the string and pull on it to turn it on and off. And it was overhead. And then I woke up from that dream. I have no idea what that means.
I liked Sandy's experience. It was, remember there was an old show called Tales from the Crypt?
Yes.
Yeah, you remember those things too. So again, there's Grandma in her high heels, which represents her personal self, because the feet are the personal self. And, again, yes, she's trying to get higher through her personal idea, and that is wearing high heels, right? Does that get you higher?
Not quite.
How high does that get you? It's a cute idea, isn't it? It's kind of like the initiations in the corporation. You get the initiations from Joni and Harry, and you go higher, right? That's the idea, right? But it's just an idea, so that's where everybody wears high heels. But yeah, it's very simple, the experience. She didn't want help. She wants to do things herself. And, we all have these so-called relatives we go through, and I had a mom here, etc., and respectfully, but as soon as she passed on, I let her go. I'm not at all curious as to what she's doing. She's on her own journey. That's it. As soon as she left, that's it. She took the train. She's gone. And so, and this is where, this is one of the major things that brings everybody back here is these emotional attachments. I saw others, and especially my former girlfriend, go through it with her brother, where she was actually strangling him on the real side. She told me some experiences, and she didn't understand him, but he was drowning in her emotional attachments. And so again, yes, this is what we do to each other. It's very, very interesting. So we create these identities here. That's all they are. They're created identities, but it's really all being to being. This is why I didn't want the membership. We are being to being now. These ideas that we have here with relationships and marriages and all these other things, fine, we play the game, but each person decides. But usually what happens is that all this emotional attachment starts to be created, especially unconsciously, etc., and it gets to be something else, and so it's a decision. But in your experience there, Bob, with I know what you're talking about. The old lights had that, and some still do in your basement or whatever. You got a light like that. So was the light on or was the light off when you were in this experience?
I don't really recall one way or the other, but it was most likely it was on, so I wouldn't have been in the room without it being on.
Do you know where it was at? What room? Or was it in your house or somewhere else, or what?
It was in a small room somewhere, but no, it was not in my house. I have no idea where it was.
Okay, so the idea is that, it's as we experience, it's like moving from one room to another is what it's like. And so that's the easiest way to depict things. So like even the so-called different levels or whatever, realms or dimensions, it's just one room to another. And it's just like from inside your house till you go outside, it's another room because it's in creation. It's not the real universes until you recognize those. But again, as you go into another room, you decide to turn on the light or turn off the light for that room. You see? So you have the option. So this is why the experience, see, the experience is always demonstrating something to you. In other words, you are always the decider. So all of a sudden you find yourself in this place, and let's just say it's a past life. Okay, this room is a past life, and you decide to keep the light on, or you decide to turn it off to that lifetime. You see?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. That
Yeah.
reminds me of another.
Go ahead.
Yesterday afternoon, I took my
8-hour nap.
as Sandy says, my 8-hour siestas, and I was outside somewhere, and there was like a road going past where I was at. You know, and could just as easily been out on my front steps looking across the way, and there was this huge round ball of fog that appeared, and the sun overhead was shining extremely brightly on this area of fog, which was round and maybe 20 feet in diameter. And then I woke up from that dream, or my nap.
What does the sun usually do to fog?
Dissipates.
Okay, so when you're in this experience as part of the adventure, okay, so you're always the experiencer. So what do you see from that? There's the fog, there's the sun. So what do you see?
Well, I can see that maybe I'm in the fog and the sun is shining brightly, and it's going to clear things up for me.
Well, yes, that's one way to look at it. Yes, it can do that. Okay, it can do that, but at the same time, what's your part in it? Is it going to do everything, or what are you going to do? See, that's where the recognition comes in, you see? So you've got part of the experience, but there's more to it. See, there's always more to the experience that you don't see. So that's part of it. Yeah, it can do that. It can do that, but keep in mind, again, you use the corporation as an example. Look at the process you went through, and many times you think, oh, well, Harry's taking care of it, or this, whatever, and you just go on your merry way, and you keep creating things, you see, thinking that, oh, Harry will take care of it, or the guides or the masters will take care of it. You see that idea?
I do.
Yeah, and see, we all carry that idea, and until you face and recognize it, it's really, all they're showing you is that, yeah, that can be so. They can do that. They will do that at times, when you earn it. Again, it's like, the kid that wants to go to college, he's got to prove that he can earn it, and then the parents will pay for it, etc. Maybe even get him a new car. The boys will do that, etc. So you're seeing this experience, and so, but there's a recognition that's involved in this experience that you're not seeing yet. So I would focus on that. What is it that you're not seeing from this experience?
There are times that I feel like I'm entirely brain dead when it comes to understanding these things.
That's because it has nothing to do with that. Again, it has nothing to do with your literal self. See, this is a whole new area. And so little by little, this is where, most people, they will just throw in the towel because, again, they can't get past their literal self. So, just by that very statement, look at yourself, and you can realize, okay, that's the first step to recognition. Okay, you can realize something. It's like, oh, you see, you got an insight, and then eventually you take that insight a little further, and you see if you can recognize your real awareness. So you have a realization that, again, yes, all of a sudden you can realize that, oh, gee whiz, it has nothing to do with my brain, okay? Because, again, we use these references that don't work. The brain is a receiver. That's it. It isn't the thinker for the individual. That's your mind body, your mental body. You see, there's a difference. And so science is looking at the brain. Well, the brain is a receiver, like an old radio with all the tubes and all the stuff in it. It just receives, okay? And if the station isn't out there broadcasting, well, there's nothing to receive. So this is where we set up ourselves to realize and recognize what's going on so we can receive, but the brain is just an idea. That's the vehicle itself. So, yeah, it has nothing to do with that. And the brain refers to, supposedly your literal self. And, this is marketed all the time. Oh, we only use 10% of our brain. In a way, that's so. But, again, the mind and the brain, even in the movie, The Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston, he talked about God as the all mind. Made that statement. They want to make that statement out there because they want to keep people in their minds. And so even Paul, the old idea was soul, and he said, you are soul. But that really didn't define it. You see, that really didn't define it because, again, those were the elementary stages. So everybody's thinking, oh, I am soul. So what they've done is they've created an idea about the reality of the individual, and then they look to the idea and not to the reality. So again, it's not in your brain. And your brain isn't dead, is it? Is it dead, Sandy? Is his brain dead? Is it close? Is that it? Maybe, too much dynamite for dinner or whatever. Okay.
There we go.
Well, these dreams add up to something, Bob. See, so again, it's like, yeah. A person can get funny here. This is where, a lot of people are locked up in those little jackets and rubber rooms because they can't figure out their dreams.
Something to keep in mind.
Well, how do you process information if you don't use your mind?
Well, this gets into, again, it's process. That's a process. Like I talk about the process going through creation. Yes, how do you do that? Yes, what else is there besides processing things, okay? Like the processed cheese you've ate and butter, and you're not doing good on it. So again, look at all the processing there is that we go through. So can there be something else besides this? Well, yes, again. So in your experience there is something there. And like I've said, step one, there's many ways to look at it, but recognize what the sun is demonstrating. See, that's what's unseen. And that's where you go. And that's not going to be found in your mind or brain or even any experiences that you've had. You are the experiencer. And so recognizing that, just realizing that you are the experiencer, you go from there. So what else is there that is everything? How do you see that without considering what you always have? Yes. Yeah, that's the real experience of life. And yes, you got to figure that out. I can see it, but you got to figure it out for yourself.
Ever since the other day when you asked me the question, who am I and where did I come from? I've been just totally out of it.
It is on the awareness test.
It's on your awareness test, but that is such a great question, and I have not come up with an answer to that yet.
Well, maybe it's in the carrot juice that Sandy refers to. Try that. You guys are a team. You work together. So, again, it's very interesting how this all comes about. I get it. I get it. This, it's very interesting how the isness is. And that is that it's a real recognition. And it has nothing to do with anything in creation. Again, we become self-convinced, which is okay. All of it's okay because you need that. You need that as a reference. You really do. You need that as a reference to recognize what isn't real. And still, it's okay. You don't negate it. It's not about negating it. it's seen, it's just interesting how it is, but it cannot be explained because you cannot consider it. But yet the boys recognize it. I recognize it. Yeah. It's a recognition. It's a real recognition with your real awareness because it's an aliveness, okay, all its own. That's all I can say. I'm not holding back. It's just that, these are ideas. It's an aliveness where creation is not. Creation is a simulator, just like your car. Your car's driving down the road. It looks like it's alive. You could say, well, gee, there goes my brain. I'm driving my brain. Okay, you can say that. But realistically, it's not alive, is it? It's a mechanism. It's simulation. It looks like it's going here and there. But really, it's not. When you have the wholeness of life, when you have, just as an example, the air you breathe, the sun that's shining, where are they moving to? There's no movement there. Realistically, there's not. So, yeah, what is it? And see, this is where, again, the corporation's a great idea, too. Paul was giving this hint. His idea was, spirituality must be caught, not taught. You must learn to catch on to it. And most people didn't. They still have experiences with the real guides, but it doesn't mean they see it. Yes, Harold and Darwin had experiences in the real universes. They were shown certain things. Everybody is, but it doesn't mean they recognize it. That becomes the difference. And see, that's where you expand upon that, or you don't. And for the most part, most people go back to their personal self, just like Sandra's experience, and they want to do it themselves. And these experiences that we're having, so-called dreams or the real side, these are an alternate objective view of yourself and your experiences that you decide. You're only having those experiences because you've decided something different than you normally have. Otherwise, things would be whatever, you see? So it's very interesting, but that's the whole of life, as I talk about, as I write. That's what I call the whole of life, or the true reality. Life is, the all is, because this all isness is it, and the old term was the ek or spirit or whatever, but it really doesn't do it. That's just astral terminology. It's all in isness, and what's so cool about this is that the old idea is that you sit cross-legged, as an example, like meditation. You hold your hands out, and the spirit comes into you. Well, those are the psychic forces. All right. Paul, what he gave in the spiritual exercise, that was the astral light, which was knowledge, because people needed knowledge first. It wasn't the real light of the all is. Couldn't take it, can't see it, can't recognize it, but so people have to go in steps. Well, what's so cool about the isness is as I presented the new you, no, we don't focus on chakras and all these things and whatever, and bodies and projection and soul travel and all this. No, you don't need it. It's everything, because the isness is the completeness life. It's already complete. So how is it that you identify and recognize something that's already complete? That is your real awareness. That is really you that's operating these 5 bodies, as a reference. You see, everything makes sense once you understand all of it. So again, there's the view, and you decide how you're going to view you, the real you. You're the decider of that. So you're already this awesome free being of real light. You're already that. But you decide how you're going to recognize it and stand real in it. You see, that's up to you, just like you do anything else. You're already doing it. These are references to the reality. And again, you need these references to eventually figure it out and eventually say, oh, gee, that wasn't me at all. None of that was. To where you can recognize standing in this real position. I like standing real, instead of working with, again, that's the ideas of the earth. Let's just keep working at something, where this is where you recognize, and it's not about a job or working or all this nonsense, co-worker with God or whatever. Yeah, at first, Paul got people going. They had to be kind of like the little slaves and support him, which makes sense because look at what he was presenting, something awesome, until they can get to the point where everybody becomes self-sufficient, you see. So this is the point I'm starting off, is to recognize being self-sufficient, and that is that, yes, stepping up and supporting everyone else. Realistically, this is how Revazar and the boys are presenting things. It's a support system, but it's with your real awareness, and also through all of creation. It's very interesting how it is. But again, beyond your brain, yes, young man. So every time you look to your mind, okay, you're looking for references, not realities. If you're looking for reality, the true reality, you're not going to find it there. You're not going to find it in your computer. It's the same thing. You may as well be talking to your computer. It's not there. It's a recognition in your real awareness. So how do you identify? So the best way to do that is to see what it isn't, and then all of a sudden, I mean, it's there. You are the awareness operating in these bodies right now. All the 5 bodies are right here. It is right here, you see? So that's where I decided UP, universal position. You pick your position. You decide your position. It's not about traveling anywhere. It's about, that's everything. But you must decide it, firmly decide it, and that's with your intent, and it all comes, and eventually it's right there. You just have to recognize it. And also, I just wrote a group called, what was it, Proving One or whatever. Now you must prove it. Once you recognize it, now you must go through the task of proving it, demonstrating it, your position. Just like an individual that all of a sudden they become the president of the United States. They're elected. They went through all this stuff. We've seen this many times. The elections as an example. This is an objective example. And the individual, becomes, is elected and becomes president. Doesn't mean he's president. This is the first day on the job. Realistically, but people think, oh, he's the president, and we just do whatever he says. And whatever he does, blow up women and children overseas, or, get the chemtrail pilots up in the air, and you do the harp and whack all of us. Whatever he decides, he's the president. No, that's not the idea. That's not the real idea. The idea is that he's to prove himself, and it may take his whole life to do that. And these people, they don't. They get in there and they start to control. They don't prove themselves. In a way they do, they really prove who they are. So again, see, that's the process, young man. So it's not in your brain. That's a lot of explanation, but all we can do is dance around it. The reality of it is up to you, because you stand in the center, you might say. There is no center of the whole of life, but it's how you recognize that and then demonstrate, like the sun shining, you see. The sun is demonstrating itself. It is proving itself. And what I see with the sun is a pure sincerity, like the is. It doesn't stop shining. That's what I see, pure sincerity, because it's always shining. It doesn't go off. It might be behind the clouds, might be on the other side of the world. It doesn't stop shining. So it's the best representative. So to first step, recognize what it's demonstrating. So there's a hint. See, again, giving out hints like we talked about yesterday. There's no message here. It's hints about this reality, then standing real with it. That's the best part. There's your freedom, and you have everything with this isness, where you don't in creation. You're always chasing things, maintaining them, and having to deal with them, and then the body gets old, and gee, it sucks, right? Yeah, we've done that enough times. So there's a little hint, kids.